What made the high school legend become a legend? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. When I was in 11th grade, a guy a year older than me in grade 12 saved a grade 9 girl from being abducted by her estranged father in the school parking lot. Her dad hadn't been in her life for years and had previously tried to take her from her elementary school. This being her first year in high school, I guess he tried again. The 12th grader heard her scream as her dad tried to force her into his car, and he ran over and got involved, apparently punching the dad before the dad got back in his car and sped off. The guy was a legit hero at the school. Our legend was actually the gym teacher. He became a legend by getting hit by a bus, getting up, getting on the bus, and asking if everyone was okay. He ended up getting fired about 5 years after I graduated because he was caught soaking raisins in vodka and then eating them over the course of the day. Never change, Mr. Lev. There was this girl, Kelly, who was very tiny, quiet, and seemingly well-mannered, very unassuming girl. I don't think anyone knew who she was, big school, until she was escorted off campus by the police for stealing the credit card information of 14 students and going on a shopping spree. She disappeared for a year before somehow being allowed back in for her senior year. Instead of being a pariah, this girl somehow became a damn meme. Free Kelly posters would pop up with her mugshot on them. Her name was incorporated into chants used at football games like she was a weapon that could be used against the opposing team, and she was at the top of everyone's party invite list. Joe Sticka, class of 1969 at my high school. The guy didn't exist. He was created by a group of my friends as a mid-year transfer student with a totally fabricated deep background that was so smooth Joe even made the yearbook with a picture unavailable caption. Our history teacher was ex-military, and he was absolutely jacked. Like the guy would bike 10 miles every morning to school, kept an ab roller in his classroom, would eat salads and beans for lunch every day, the whole shebang. Anyway, one day, he gives our class a pop quiz. Jeff, the strongest, biggest guy in my class, goes up to him and asks, "If I can punch you in the stomach and make you flinch, the entire class gets 100 on the quiz." My teacher took him up on it. He prepared himself, and Jeff absolutely drills him in the stomach. Our teacher did not flinch. We still had to take the quiz, but Jeff went down in history as the guy who punched a teacher, and the teacher went down in history as a guy you don't want to fucking mess with. Halfway through my last year of high school, someone managed to put a ceramic toilet on top of our multi-story gymnasium. I have no idea how that feat was achieved. The school staff didn't know either, nor could they figure out how to get it off the roof once they found it. As a result, it remained on the gym for the remainder of my time there. I never found out who did it, but I will admire them until my dying day. It's pretty stupid, but a friend wore a Walmart hot dog costume, and for some reason everyone thought it was funny, started chanting "hot dog kid," and he won the best Halloween costume award of that year. Next year he wore a penguin costume, and as he stepped up on the stage, he ripped it off to reveal the hot dog costume underneath. Everybody fucking lost it. Sadly, we have a rule that you can't win 2 years in a row, so while he didn't get the prize, we all knew who had the best costume that day. That is how the legend of Hot Dog Kid was born at my high school. 3 kids at my high school literally saved a baby's life by lifting up a car off of a child that got ran over and had its head pinned under the axle. The baby would have died had they not showed up. Those kids were hailed as heroes, and if I recall, Good Morning America offered to fly them to New York for interviews, but they declined. I'll see if I can find the article. He cut his thumb off on a 3rd-floor window 5 minutes before final bell and buses. Getting all of us locked in the school for an hour as the ambulance arrived took him away, and the school cleaned everything up. In my first year of high school, someone ran for student body president and covered the entire school with posters saying, "Vote for Name. He's a cunning linguist." By the end of the first day, all the posters were down, and he was told he was no longer allowed to run in student council elections. He won as a write-in candidate, but was not allowed to serve. Legend. Someone installed games onto the school's server. There were a bunch of N64 emulators, Peggle, and some other games, but then there were also LAN games that could be played against anyone or everyone in the school, including Counter-Strike and Halo. Sometimes you'd go on and there'd be no one, other times there'd be 10v10 fight in Blood Gulch. It lasted at least 10 years, but don't know if it has been taken down since. My brother ran into the statue of our high school mascot with his truck at night, knocked the bulldog off its platform, then threw it in the back of the truck. It ended up in a pond out by our house. My brother, who was a massive wallflower in school and never told a soul until he mentioned it to me over some beers in our 30s. No one ever knew who it was, but it was a big deal, and I remember tons of allegations, accusations, and rumors as to how our mascot disappeared. Never in my life would I have ever suspected my brother. Legendary in my eyes. In 9th grade, one of our teachers got sick, so we got a sub, and this kid just starts talking in a strong Spaniard accent, like super well, and convinces the teacher he is from Spain. And he talks this way for 3 months. It was hilarious. And when another kid tried talking as a Spaniard too, he got really upset and accused the other kid of mocking his culture, etc. Then, when the year ended, we had to do a presentation, and our teacher who got sick came, so the kid just nodded through the whole presentation while his group mates talked. It was hilarious. When I was a freshman, there was a senior on the last week of school who thought it would be legendary to streak on campus. He was 18. He was unable to receive his diploma on stage and had to register as a sex offender. Go Wildcats. He copied a Benito Mussolini speech when running for student president word for word, won the election by 5 votes. Not high school, but elementary school. We had this system where if we read a book, we could take a quiz online about the book and we'd get points for how much of it we got correct, and at the end of the year, the students that had a certain amount of points got to go to this after-school party with water slides and food trucks, and it was a lot of fun. Anyways, this buddy of mine would read all these big, long, hard books. They were worth the most points, and he'd take the quizzes, write down the answers, and pass them around to other students, and by the end of the year, there were about 50 students who went to that party, including myself, all thanks to him. Hope you're doing all right, James. Long story short, jerk of a substitute wouldn't let a heavily pregnant girl use the restroom, and she had to go to the nurse, then the doctors afterwards, enraging entire graduating class of the girl. Substitute quits after 3 weeks of open season on him, with him giving this speech of how we're all ungrateful and how we've made him regret ever wanting to be a teacher. According to my little brother, who is currently at that school, it's still talked about because the faculty put a rule that a teacher cannot prevent a pregnant student from going to the restroom. I was actually part of the legend that still carries to this day. I was one of the editors for our school newspaper, and as a whole, we decided to do an entire issue looking at the drug problem the school had. Our teacher was supportive of it and taught us how to do investigative journalism. After a month or so, we had everything together, and it was really impressive. However, when the administration found out, they put the kibosh on it real quick and refused to release funds to have it published. We were annoyed and decided to raise money to self-publish it. Thankfully, my mom was a prominent business owner in the community and bought an ad for considerably more than we charged typically. She was impressed with our work and thought people deserved to see the paper. With the influx of money, we got it published and distributed it before the administration could step in. We also dropped off copies everywhere we could. Naturally, the community was outraged that kids were shooting up heroin in the parking lot in between classes, and that there was photographic proof of it too. We made the photo so you couldn't tell who it was. There was so much outrage that parents showed up at the next school board meeting and demanded answers. The head of the school board nearly had to step down, and the principal was put through the ringer. After that issue, our funding was completely pulled and the paper was shut down. We continued to have journalism class, but it wasn't the same. We ended up submitting the issue and won all sorts of awards for it too. Now, 16 years later, the school still doesn't have a newspaper, and the story as to why is still told. It's one of the few things I did in high school that I'm actually proud of too. During gym class, we noticed people's change and stuff would go missing here and there, as it was a British school with uniforms and blazers, etc. Someone left their iPod recording in their blazer pocket, and we caught the girl who'd been stealing our change red-handed, LMAO. It was so crazy because she was like the richest kid. She was actually a semi-successful child actor who'd been in several shows. Religious school. Until the principal's niece, 2 years older than me, got pregnant her senior year, the school had a rule that they would expel pregnant students. After that, they changed it to pregnant students are not allowed to walk for graduation if they are showing, but they are no longer expelled. A girl in my class got pregnant her senior year and was not showing 2 weeks before graduation when the school had decided if she was allowed to walk. She did not look pregnant then, but then popped in those 2 weeks and looked super pregnant at graduation, but they had already said she could walk, so she got to participate. Year 10. Head boy has to be picked, England, and it's picked by vote. It's a year group of about 150 students, so we had the obvious popular, well-liked by everyone kids. We had the popular lads, the football captain, and the sophisticated, obvious choice. Me and my little posse of in-betweeners, I suggest, fuck that. We pick one guy from the Forgotten Kids Club. Let's call him Coral. This guy has pretty below-average grades, not a lick of athletic ability, and his social abilities? Well, he's part of a group of kids that stays behind and spends lunch in the teacher's class because he got bullied so bad on the schoolyard. Carl found himself named head boy, to his absolute shock due to the minority being united and the knobheads all split and vying for position. He was a good dude as well, really committed himself to it. His grades improved, he became a better speaker, the lad glowed up considerably, and by the end of the year 11, we had a whole army of people carrying him down the street for the final end of exam celebration. We would just sing his praises despite not knowing him that well, and it just caught on. Dick move, I know, but we did genuinely like him and thought it would be good for him. I'd like to take credit for suggesting the whole movement, but really it was just a testament to how one downtrodden dude can rise to the occasion and be an absolute fucking ambassador for the entire school. He won over everyone. Dude was impossible to hate. Good. This guy never lost a wrestling match, ever. Local, state, national champ as a sophomore. He was amazing. My high school had about 220 total students in the middle of fucking nowhere, Oregon, and this 98-pound ball of muscle and hustle was getting TV crews to come out and film us practicing at shit. This guy didn't become a high school legend until the last 10 minutes of our last day of school. I went to school with this kid for 5 years who, throughout all of high school, was bullied for the way he looked, considered a teacher's pet, generally unpopular with most of the school, etc. No one knew much about him at all, apart from the reasons he was unfortunately bullied and ostracized so hard. On the last day of our final year at high school, we had a leaver ceremony where teachers gave speeches, students were given awards, etc. Typical, painstaking, sit down for 2 hours while you watch all the accomplished sports kids drown in trophy ceremony. Out of nowhere, the principal introduced a performance from this kid, the notorious unpopular teacher's pet. We were all so confused. What could he possibly be performing? He got up on our school's theater stage, as if he were to do a stand-up special. He then proceeded to perform a 10-minute-long Adult Swim-style sketch in which he did spot-on impressions of not only every single teacher in the school in front of them, but the exam invigilators, the cleaners, and even the fucking dinner ladies. This guy had fully produced and scripted an entire one-man sketch where he played all the characters being every member of staff in the school for the very last time we would all be in that hall together. It was a truly then everybody clapped moment in real life, as he got a standing ovation from every teacher in the hall and all 120 students who relentlessly bullied him all these years prior. It felt like a massive middle finger to everyone who underestimated and ignored him. This mystery kid, who'd been bullied and ignored for his entire 5 years at our high school, became a legend within 10 minutes on the very last hour of the very last day of our time in that place. And then, I never saw him again. Wonder where he is now. Be nice to people.